Hey beauties, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going over and using all 4 of the new Wild Obsessions palettes from Huda Beauty. These are the mini palettes that she creates. They usually come out in a series, a collection with a theme. This time it is Wild, so the Wild Obsessions, Wild Tiger, and they have like this little, you see it move? Pretty cool. I don't remember what that is called whenever it has that shift like that, but I think it's really neat. And we have Wild Chameleon. This is the one that I first saw switch up like that. I didn't even realize that they did it until I was playing with this one. This is one of my favorites with the little switch. I'm trying to make sure you guys are catching it. And then we have a Wild Jaguar. This one, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see that one because this one's a little bit deeper. And then the one that I have on my eyes right now, Wild Python. Each palette retails for $29. You can get 3 of them on Sephora.com. There's one palette that is exclusive to Huda Beauty's website only, and that is Wild Tiger. These are limited edition, that's what it says on the Sephora site, but some of these that have been limited edition have been around for a while, so I don't know if it's like limited edition or limited life. Limited edition would mean it's truly limited edition, they're not going to come back, and they're there for a short time. Limited life is more, they're going to be creating plenty and for a period of time, and then it will stop. That's how I tend to look at these palettes because you can usually get them for a longer period of time. All right, I'm going to go ahead and dive into each of these palettes, show you guys the swatches, and I will have some comparisons. I went through my Huda Beauty palettes and I picked out a few that I could show you guys to compare in case you already have a nice collection of Huda Beauty and you want to know if you want to pick one of these up. I'm going to start off with a Jaguar. This one is a beautiful smoky palette. Each of these have mattes, metallics, and like this shimmer. So some of the shades are a little thinner, but it's almost like in between a metallic and one of the topper shades that you would find like with Tom Ford, Wayne Gosh, Charlotte Tilbury. They're a little bit more intense than that. You can pack them on actually, and you'll see me do that with this palette. I use this shimmer shade right here just to go over top, and it really switches things up. It kind of just creates a little bit more of a shift. So keep that in mind if you're using these and you're thinking, this metallic isn't what I was thinking it was going to be. It's because of the formula. The shadows include a black silver shimmer, purple gray matte, light gold shimmer, brown matte, 3D lilac shimmer, black gold shimmer, beige matte, black matte, and a purple gold shimmer. Wild Tiger that is on the Huda Beauty website, it doesn't have any shade descriptions like all the other ones do on the Sephora website. So I'm just going to read what Huda Beauty says about this one. Tiger, a bougie champagne gold palette with taupe neutrals and a sexy slice of terracotta pink. Python, the one that I have on right now, it contains a blue shimmer, a bright green shimmer, burnt green shimmer, mint matte, rich brown matte, acid green matte, punch orange matte, medium brown matte, and 3D green metallic. Lastly, Wild Chameleon. There's a bright orange, purple matte, purple brown matte, orange matte, punchy pink matte, orange and purple shimmer, orange shimmer, purple shimmer, and 3D gold shimmer. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the 4 looks. This one will be last. With the Wild Jaguar palette, I'm starting with shade 2 on the top row with a Zoeva 227. Now, I have already applied once and then twice, starting on this outer portion and then starting into the crease and blending upward. Unfortunately, I thought I had my mic on, but I didn't. I do have to build this shade, and it can get a little bit patchy. Not terribly, but a little bit. You just kind of have to work to get it blended out. Now I only want this shade on the outer corner of the eye and lightly into the crease and upward right here, but I'm not taking it all of the way in. So this is 3 applications of that color. Nikia Joy EO6, first shade in the second row. I am going to apply this again to the same outer corner area and then blend it out. Grabbing a bit more. Again, obviously I'm able to make this palette work, but you do have to put it in a little bit of work to use this palette. I want to just create a little bit more definition on this outer corner, but I'm not bringing the shade up quite as high as I did the last one. Going back in with that Zoeva 227, no additional product. Just going right around the edges and blending them out. Back in with the Nikia Joy EO6 and the black. Applying again. Outer corner, just a little bit more definition. This shade I am not taking up into the crease. I want to focus this more on the very outer corner. Zoeva 234, first shade in the palette. I am going to apply that to the lid. Starting in the front, you are going to get a little bit of fallout with this. It's more like a sparkly metallic, so I like to use pressing motions as I am applying it. I'm going to go up slightly into the crease, and then I'm going to wipe away the fallout. Middle shade in the palette on an Isom W21. I'm going to apply this right over that last shade, which is going to give it more of that purple appearance. I like these two combined. I think it's pretty. And again, stamping and kind of going up into the crease a little bit. Refer 21, first shade in the bottom row. Taking this right at my brow arch. Refer number 3, last shade in the palette. Buffing this right along the lower lash line. With the same brush, I'm grabbing the first shade in the second row. And I'm going to take that a little closer to the lashes on the lower lash line. Going in with the black on a refer number 3, applying that right up against my lashes. I don't want this to be too dark or too thick, so I'm just kind of going in lightly and just kind of stamping it on. And then lastly, on a Bristles Beauty P06 RF, I'm grabbing the gold, and I am applying that to the inner corner. Afterwards, I will go in and add inner rim liner and mascara to finish off the look, to make it complete like the other eye. Next up, Wild Tiger. I'm starting off with a Zoeva 227 and the second shade in the bottom row. Starting off by stamping this on the outer corner, outer portion of the lid. And then you guys know I'm going to work my way upward. I want this to go on the outside of the crease in transition, but I'm going to take another shade and put it on the inner portion. So I don't want to go too far in. I do want to have like a blended look right here, so I'll take the excess over, but not much. Adding a little bit more, but I found this shade to work really well. I didn't really have any issues with it, not patchy or anything like that. Taking that same shade on a refer number 3, and I am just smoking out the lower lash line. Next, I'm going to go in with the last shade in the palette on a refer 14. I'm going to apply this to the inner crease and blend upward. This is another shade I did not have any issues with. It's nicely pigmented and blends out really easily. I'll pick up a bit more, make it just a little bit more intense in the crease area, and then I'm going to start blending over into the other color. Another Rephr 14 and the third shade in the top row. I am going to deepen this up, focusing mainly on the outer corner of the lid and using tapping motions to lay this down. Then lightly into the crease. I'm going to lightly bring it upward just so that you'll be able to see it whenever I lay down the shimmer. But I'm not going to go too high because I don't want it to be too dark up in this area. Rephr 21 in the middle shade. I'm applying this to the lid. And I will have to go in several times with this one. It's a little bit thinner. You could use it wet, but I just prefer dry and just dipping in a few times. Always starting on the inner corner whenever I apply it, and then tapping the excess right over into that last deeper shade. Going slightly upward into the crease. Same brush, I just wiped it off. I'm grabbing the last shade in the second row, and I'm just going to buff this right at my brow arch. First shade in the last row on a Bristles Beauty P06 RF. I'm going to stamp this on the inner corner. First shade in the second row on a Rephr number 3. I'm going in with this wet. I'm going to create a little bit of a liner. I really like this shade. There's something just really pretty about it, and I love it with the lid shade. But after I get this on, I'm going to go ahead and add inner rim liner and mascara. The next palette is Wild Chameleon, and I'm going to start off, of course, with a Zoeva 227 and the middle shade. I am placing this into my crease, back and forth motions, picking up a little bit more product. Again, it's straight into the crease, but now I'm going to start working this shade upward. I want to make sure I really get this on this outer portion so you can see it peeking through the other colors. On a Bristles Beauty EO2 RL, I'm going in with the very first shade in the palette. I'm going to take this and deepen up my crease. So again, applying straight into the crease area and moving in back and forth motions. And then slightly blending this one upward, just not as high as I took the last shade. Rephr 14, second shade in the palette. You guessed it. Further deepening up this crease. I love these shades together. It's like a beautiful sunset. Soft circular motions to blend upward. It's kind of like I'm repeating the process every time, but going just a little bit lower with each shade. Moving back to the first shade on a Wayne Goss number 7, I am applying this right underneath my lower lash line. I'm going to smoke this down quite a bit because I will be applying the purple right on top, closer to the lash line. Rephr 14, first shade in the second row. I'm going to start creating a little bit of a halo, placing this on the outer corner. I'm lightly going to blend slightly upward, not too far though. I'm not going to take it on the center portion of the crease. Now I'm applying it to the inner corner, leaving a space on the center of the lid. Rephr 21 and the metallic purple. I'm not using this wet, but I do have a lot of product on my brush, and I am pressing this onto my lid. Starting in the center, then I will start moving it around and lightly going over the edges of the last shade to kind of get a blend out of it. I want the dark shade to still peek through on the edges, but I want the purple to be the star of the show. This shade I did have more fallout with. If that's a concern for you, I would use your finger, or you could go in with it wet. Same shade, this time I'm using it wet, and this is a Rephr 23. I'm dragging this right along the lower lashes, a little closer. I don't want to completely cover up the melon shade underneath. I'm also not taking it all the way to the inner corner. I'm leaving a little bit of room. Rephr 21 and the third shade in the middle row. I'm applying this right to the center of the lid. And then of course blending out. I will go in a couple times, blend out, and then intensify the center again. Rephr 3 in the metallic gold. Applying this on this empty space. I'm going to drag it over lightly. And then lastly, I'm going in with the last shade in the first row on a Bristles Beauty P06 RF. Applying that to the inner corner. And then I will go add on inner rim liner, and then I'm going to put a little bit of black liner on the top and mascara. For today's look, I'm using the Wild Python palette. I'm starting off with a Rephr number 1 and the last shade in the palette. Applying this to the outer corner, outer portion of the lid. Kind of tapping it into place. And then I'm going to bring it into the crease halfway and start working it upward. Do you guys know the drill? Into the transition area and a little higher, smoking out the outer portion here. Want to make sure it reaches the edge. And I'm going to bring the excess inward, but not too far, because I'm going to use a different shade on the inner corner of the crease. Adding in just a little bit more. Taking that same shade on a soft definer from Sonia G, applying it to the lower lash line. Wayne Goss number 6 and the bright green. I'm going to take this on the inner portion of the crease. Just back and forth first, meeting up with the last shade, but not going over it yet. I'm going to start buffing upward. I do have to build this shade up a little bit. Taking the excess over into the last color, merging them together, and going a little higher on this portion so that it peeks through the other color I'm going to be laying down. Wayne Goss number 19, first shade in the second row. Applying this a little lower into the crease, only on the front portion, halfway over. Because again, I'm going to be putting another shade on the outside half. Moving on, Rephr number 14, last shade in the second row. I'm going to start deepening up the outer corner. Then I'm going to start taking it into the crease, meeting up with that blue-green. It's more of a green. Lightly smoking upward. Taking my Rephr brush, no additional product, and just going right around the edges to get a smoother blend. MAC 239S and the very first shade. I'm applying this first to the center of the lid. I will get a bunch of fallout with this. I already feel it all over my face. I'm using pressing motions. And I'm going to lightly go over the last shade I laid down, but I don't want to completely cover it up. Rephr 21, second shade in the palette. I'm placing this on the front portion of the lid. Lightly going over the blue. just right at the edge to blend them together. Same brush, last shade in the first row. I am first going to apply this dry and kind of layering it over that green, and then wet with an Esom V09. I take it on the inner corner and slightly on the under eye area, just to make it a little bit more intense. Lastly, I'm taking the deep brown on a Rephr number 3, applying this to the outer corner of the lid and going about halfway over. I don't want to take it all the way in, but I want to have a little bit more depth on this outer lash line. And then I'm going to go add on inner rim liner and mascara. All right, I messed up. I totally messed up. I forgot to show you guys one of the shades, and I realized it as I was looking at the palette. I took this center shade right here, which is one of those more shimmery shades. You're not going to really notice it if you're not up close, but I had taken this on this eye and just kind of pressed it over the green and the blue. So I went ahead and did that over here. I'm sorry, I totally forgot to do it. I just forgot. So that's part of the look. I liked adding that on because it added just a tiny bit more shimmer and a little bit more dimension. I'm so mad at myself for doing that, but I had to mention it. So let's go ahead and get into my thoughts. I'm going to start off with this palette right here. This is a really pretty palette. I love the color scheme in here. And I have to say, I noticed something with all of the palettes. When I started on this eye, it was, the very first time I would use the shade. And it was like you had to take off a top layer, because after I used it and then I went on to this eye, it was much easier. I had more opacity out of the shimmers and the metallics. The mattes work perfectly fine the very first time, but I just want to mention that. So if you find that the very first application is kind of a little bit drier, I would say just take a brush and kind of lightly go over them and take off the top layer, or even a tissue. Don't use your finger because that can create hard pan because you have oils on your finger. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that because I definitely, when I first did this eye, this blue and the green just was not as intense as it was when I applied it over here. So there's that. This one I really didn't have any issues with. I would say this shade right here is going to be something that only, I would say, up to medium would be able to wear, and skin tone wise, and you do have to build it up, but it builds up. So I didn't have any issues with that. If I have to build something up, it's okay. It's just whenever it becomes patchy or unblendable, I don't like that. So I did have to layer just a little bit, but not a big deal. The brown shade is really intense, which I love. And these palettes can be hit or miss, so I didn't know if I was gonna like these or not, so I was pleasantly surprised. I absolutely love this shade right here, and I love the little topper shade. I can see that some people are not going to appreciate that because I know that a lot of people do not like topper shades from other brands, but personally, if you use your finger and put it on, it's gonna be a little bit more intense. I like to use a brush. And if you really play with them, you'll see that they truly do add just a little something to the eye. So this palette is, I would give it a B+, if I was giving it a grade. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the comparisons for this. So I grabbed Emerald Obsessions, this one on top. So I just want to show you guys the differences. This one's obviously more on the green and natural side, where this one's a lot more punchy. And because this one's punchy, obviously I need to get out my Neon Obsessions. And this is, oh, I don't know the name of the palette. I didn't really want to show it, but I kind of thought that people might ask because of this shade here and this one. I think this one is just a little bit better. These are more of a wash of color, but that's really the only similar shade in the palette. All right, moving on to Wild Chameleon. This one is one of my favorites. I think this is beautiful, beautiful. I give this one an A. I I had no issues with this. You have one of the marbled shades in here, metallics, the 3D shimmer. This purple is absolutely stunning. The mattes blended really well. I specifically wanted to use this shade because it can be tricky. A lot of the time shades like this can be patchy, and it just wasn't the case. So I really love this one. Again, I'm gonna give this an A, and I have multiples of comparisons for this one. So I'm grabbed Ruby Obsessions. Again, this one has more of a punch. You have the gold in here. This shade right here, let me see. Oh, there you go. You can see one is lighter and one is darker, but they are slightly similar. This one has a touch of pink in it though, and that is this one. These mattes are kind of similar, but you can see this one has a little bit more of an orangey hint to it, and this one's a little bit more pinky peach. And then really quickly, this shade and this shade. I know this one's gonna be deeper. Yeah, there you go. And then Rich Nude. This one, I'm gonna put it on the wrong spot. All right, there you go. Again, same with Ruby Obsessions. This one is just more on the natural side. Punchy, smoky, but this one is brighter. Coral Obsessions, you're gonna have the similar mattes, not exact dupes. And then these two once more, let me just do these again. Let me see. Yeah, you can see the difference there. This one's definitely much deeper. So there's those two. And then lastly, Desert Dusk, because this section over here just has some similar shades to the Wild Chameleon. There you go. So this one, I would actually say if you have this one, this isn't a necessity, but it has the gold in there and then the shimmer and then that purple. Oh, it's really, really good, but I do see some similarities here. And let's move on to Wild Tiger. I was actually shocked by this palette. I was prepared not to like it, just because when you look at it, it seems like it could be kind of more monochrome than you want with 9 shades, but they're actually, like, they're really nice. And even this yellow, it is so buttery. Do you see that? It is extremely creamy, and I thought that was amazing. I have to say that these mattes have been really good throughout the line, with the exception of the next palette I had a little bit of issues with, but I would give this a B plus to an A, somewhere in between. I know B plus should be the in between, but I think it's a little bit better than a B plus, so like maybe A minus. For the Wild Tiger, I have 2 palettes to show you. This is the gold palette. This one's not my favorite, so I can already tell you that I like the Wild Tiger better, but there they are side by side. This one is definitely deeper, but it kind of has a similar color scheme going on. This one is definitely superior in my opinion. And then Toffee Brown. These two appear, like when you look at them, to be pretty similar, but then this yellow versus this one, if you can see, this one is a little bit brighter and this one's just a little bit deeper. The browns, this one is lighter, this one is darker. I'm gonna do the gold, so one here, and one here. So you can see these are slightly similar. This one's lighter and these are brighter, and this one's a little bit deeper. You have the light shade in here. This one has a little bit of a yellow undertone. So you can see, there you go. And then this, you can obviously tell that it's not the same shade as this, but there you go anyway. I think it looks more similar just side by side than what it truly is. On the eyes, I think you could get similar looks, but they are different. You are going to get some fallout with these palettes because of the different textures. It's up to you if you want to do your eye look first or just wipe it away. I didn't really have any issues with just wiping things away, but you will get fallout. There's definitely going to be fallout. However, I have worn all of these palettes, with the exception of this one. I have not worn this one all day yet, but if I have any issues, I will let you guys know. I'll put a pinned comment that, oh, such and such faded or anything like that. But I've had it on for 2 hours already, and nothing has faded. The other 3 I did get to wear all day. I even wore Wild Jaguar in a live video, and my eye look was still there. I filmed in the morning and I did a live look at night, and the look was still nice and sparkly. Everything stayed in place. But this is the one that I did struggle with just a little bit, and it could be because of the cool tones. Now, I didn't have problems with all the shades. I like the majority of them. It's this shade right here and this shade, mainly this one. This one I had to build up and it got a little patchy. This shade could definitely be better. It's not terrible, but it could be better. You're gonna have to work with it. You're gonna have to build it up. This one, not as bad as this, but I just slight patchiness. But again, you can build it up. And then the end result with this is beautiful. The black is gorgeous. I love the tones of this one. If I had to pick tone-wise which one was my favorite, it would be this one. But my favorite of all of them is definitely Wild Chameleon. This one is, I absolutely love it. This one would be my least favorite of the bunch, but I do still like it. I would give this one a B-, I think, because the rest of the shades are good. So yeah, I think a B-. Just off the top of my head, I would say that. I love the shimmers. I loved how these two paired together. I thought it was gorgeous. So yeah, just keep in mind that you're gonna have to work with this one just a little bit more than the others. And the one that I have, I only have one to compare it to, and it is the Smoke Obsessions, which is one of my favorites of the whole Obsessions palettes. This one is so good. Oh my gosh, I broke it. No. I've used this one actually quite a bit, so it's a little messy, and I just let it break. I would say unless you want to have the purpley shades, that if you have this one isn't a necessity. But then, like, I really like these shades here and the purples. I'm not mad at having both of them, but I adore this palette and I like this palette. I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully you guys know what I mean. All right, beauties, that is it. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Do you have a favorite palette? Have you tried these? Do you like them? Do you not? How do you guys feel about the new, like the formula, that topper shade? I don't even remember what she calls it, but it's a really beautiful shade. But I really like them. I'm curious to know what you guys think, and if you have a favorite look that I did, let me know as well. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.